Okay, well, I guess we can get started. Thank you all for coming. This is a very respectable crowd, considering it's the issues discussion. We a lot of times don't even have this many people here. So I'm grateful that you all came out. What I thought I would do, just open things up. Some of you may have seen this presentation back in 2020. We were at our 26th, we missed our 25th anniversary, so for our 26th anniversary, I did a recap on the history of active Claremont. And I'm not going to go, I mean, that unto itself is a presentation, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but just to kind of frame the conversation, because we do have some new members that have joined, just a reminder of what our, how our organization came to be, what kind of the purpose was, and then use that as the basis to kind of converse about where do we want to go from here. So I refer first of all to our mission statement. Back in the day we used to, at the end of every program we used to remind folks of our mission statement, tying in the nature of our programming. But the statement is to advocate communication and understanding between Claremont citizens and their local government, to promote public awareness of and interest in local issues, and to encourage a spirit of volunteerism in the Claremont community. And so how did this organization kind of come to be? So going back to the time frame, and is this still going to be stupid? I guess it is. Well, anyway, it doesn't. It's neither here nor there. I don't know if I can relate the story. It's nice to have slides, but we're obviously not going to have them. So let me see if it even goes to the next one. Yeah.
Sorry, it's keeping some of the light off it. That's why I'm putting it back down again.
And this is pretty.
There it goes.
Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, I guess it does work. So anyway, going back to this time frame, kind of like as through our ongoing history here in Claremont, issues arise, and issues run their course, and then they go, and the next one eventually comes. Going back to the time frame of '89 to '90, that was a time when, of course, we had the state takeaways, and the Speaker of the State Assembly at the time, Willie Brown, reallocated local funds to they created the Education Augmentation Revenue Fund to shift some local funding to schools. And so as a result, a lot of cities' budgets were hurting. And in the case of the city of Claremont, one of the things that they looked at to help offset the loss that they had was to implement a citywide assessment district. And the assessment district itself was created by a state senator by the name of Robert Beverly. And the intent of that had really been for, it was in the town of Huntington Beach. They had wanted to do like a sidewalk and lighting project. And so it was a financing mechanism that was created with the intention of doing an improvement project, and there was a local tax to fund that improvement project. Once the improvement project was completed, it went away. Well, this was kind of a different use of the assessment district. It wasn't. There was debating on whether there was going to be a sunset or not. People were at least saying there should be a sunset. As it finally came to pass, there is no sunset to the assessment district. It goes on forever, and it's not necessarily for a specific improvement project. It's ongoing funding for lighting and landscaping. And so that was the issue of the day that brought a group of residents out that were upset about it. And see if I can get the next slide up. There were people protesting in front of City Hall signs, and all kinds of articles made. It was like the centerpiece of the Claremont Courier for a period of time there. And that led to, there was an election shortly after it was put forward, and there were 3 seats up. And so at the time, there were 3 candidates that were run to try to see if they could get on council to change course. And some in the room will remember that one of them was myself, Al Liga at the time, and Jack Mansfield. In the end, in that particular election, Al Liga was elected. But then as things turned out, once he was on council and started hearing the inside part of the story, he ended up deciding to support the assessment district. That upset a lot of people, and so there were 2 other elections following that where I ran, and in every case in the end, let me get down here now. Should put that
Well,
slide
were you
up
about
first.
15 then?
The paper said I looked 15. I was actually 19 when I first ran. In the end, no voter revolt here was the bottom line. The sad part about it that I noted is there were a lot of good people who got involved, came out of the woodwork, and when the elections didn't go their way, should be another picture. There it is. This is what I was looking for. There were several people, and you'll recognize among them. Whoops, I got to bring the screen down here. And sadly, most of these people have passed away, but Ann Bissett has passed. John Hart, you'll all know John Hart. He's been here in active Claremont forever. John Ozias, Tom Lamb, and then Dave Ramirez is in the bottom picture. It's hard to see, but he's on the very far right there. He was the first president of active Claremont. But these folks, got very engaged and were very interested in things. But once the elections were over, they kind of went back in the woodwork. And so, in 1994, after I lost my third race for city council, I reached out to them. I said, part of the problem here is, we're kind of viewed as a group that's just about one issue. When we go to the meetings, they say we're uninformed. And we're just kind of malcontent complainers. So I suggested to them, we should form an organization with the purpose of both, having programs to educate ourselves on issues, focusing on local issues, and secondly, to do something positive for the community. So we couldn't just say that all we were doing was complaining and taking, but giving back to the community. And so that's how Active Claremont was kicked off. And as a matter of fact, it was Ann Bissett, Dave Ramirez, and I sat down in Dave's yard, and that's how we came up with our mission statement for the organization. So it had the two key purposes: volunteerism, and then also programs to educate the community. And the focus was on local. That's another thing. From time to time, we have folks that have suggested, hey, bring in speakers on national issues or state issues or international issues. And the fact is that kind of strays from the point. This was about a local organization to have people involved locally, to be informed locally, to the extent that, right now, for example, as we all know, the housing is, being impacted by state decisions. Bringing in the state to explain their logic with regards to how they're impacting local government, that there's a nexus, to local activity with that. But we generally wouldn't just bring in state presentations for the sake of having state presentations, unless there was some nexus to local issues. So that kind of, in a nutshell, is how Active Claremont came to be, what its purpose was. And these days, maybe it's time to turn around now. I don't have to face the computer and talk to you rather than just have my voice playing. As we're finding, here in town now, we continue to have new issues, and even in this day and age, the one thing too is, we have more activist groups coming out that are really about their one issues, and they're very vocal. And there aren't many groups anymore that are just about having a forum where you can have all sides come together and be able to present topics and have both sides fairly equally represented, to give people the opportunity to hear all sides of an issue, to ask questions of the people, and essentially to formulate their own ideas. I mean, at the end of the day, we're not here to indoctrinate anybody. We're not here to tell somebody you're wrong and you're right. It's to really facilitate what we're finding we're not seeing a lot of anymore in our society: the ability to dialogue and to fairly discuss issues. People come in with their minds made up, and they want to hear the arguments that support their positions and don't confuse me with anything else. And then all the more, if somebody contradicts them, it gets, in the worst case, extremely, negative and confrontational. And so, Active Claremont started with that spirit. It was very successful over the years. There were several of us, admittedly, some accused us when we found the organization that it was intended to be my springboard to city council. Well, I can't deny it got me to city council, but not necessarily as quickly as some of those people, I think, envisioned. I mean, we started the organization in 1994, and I wasn't elected until 2005. So there was a great deal of investment in time and involvement in the community. But I would point this out to you too. I mean, a lot of the folks who started this organization were pretty, very strong-minded about their beliefs. And I would say that over time, I think John and Jean are very good examples. John and Jean were pretty hard set on their opposition to the assessment district and their anger about these things. But as time has gone on and they've been more involved through this group, through the volunteerism and and getting to know other people in the community, I think not in a negative way, but it's kind of moderated their tone. It changed. People start to learn to be respectful of each other, to understand that there are two sides to the issue, and in the best case, try to find a way to see if they can persuade other people to come to their point of view. And so again, with those thoughts in mind, that's what I view as the continued value of this organization. And even through the volunteerism, there are some people that could care less about issues in government, but some people like to be involved and give back to the community. And I didn't mention some of the projects that we've had over the years. We've had library volunteers. We volunteered for the school district when they went from a card file system to putting all of their cataloging of books on the computers. We've had volunteers at the Pilgrim Place Festival. We have, of course, our Adopt a Highway project that began on Baseline, and then when Baseline was under construction, and the 210 freeway was going, we moved to the 10 freeway for a period. We were down on the 10 freeway, and then once Baseline was completed, we moved back up to Baseline. And there are other projects too. Some other folks might have some memories of some of the other things we've done, but we've been very genuine to that purpose. And in so doing, there are folks that just got involved with Active Claremont because they like the volunteer opportunities, but they come to the monthly meetings, and so just without being forced on them, they had the opportunity to hear about some of the issues, and they became educated about things and understood some of the issues in town, and got to to develop some thoughts about things in the city. Kind of enough said on that. I want to begin also by thanking Russ for joining the organization this last year. He had Claremont Speaks, and we started to have some problems with officers and sometimes getting programs. And I kind of saw an opportunity there. And as much as your program expands to things beyond local government potentially, I still saw an opportunity, even by your helping to get speakers and helping to managing the programs for Active Claremont, to even get people that you could have as follow-up on your show, that you could expand on maybe some of the things that they present here. But you also have been very helpful with making sure that we're staying online, having our meetings online. So I thank you very much for that. And so among the appeals to all of you is the last piece of this, we'll kind of talk about some of the issues that you view as important to you that we should be considering for programming for this year. But I would also, encourage you all to be talking to others. And as we meet other people that have, concerns, that want to become more involved in the community, that want to, have the opportunity to be, informed on different issues, to really try to help get more people in this group. And at our high point, we were upwards about 200 members in our heyday. And just, as I alluded to, in these pictures, over half the folks sadly have passed away. And there are others that have moved from town too. There was a mix, but these days, unfortunately, we're losing a lot of members, who have passed on. And so trying to rebuild that. Oh, we had another program, Trevor, I almost forgot, Just for Kids. That was a program that John Hart came up with, because his thought was, and it was a good thought, you need to get the families involved, because they're generally very, they're involved in the schools, they're very involved with their family lives, but they tend to be disconnected from some of these other issues. And he created that program, Just for Kids, which was a decathlon, if you will. They had some running contests and ball tosses and different things, and they gave medals to the winning kids, and it was usually very well attended, a very, very good event. But at some point, some of the folks got, some of the volunteers got a little tired of it, and so it went by the wayside. But there may be other ideas that people have for programs like that we could have that are, again, give back to the community, and engage people that otherwise, aren't paying close attention to some of these issues. So I think I've said enough. I mean, Brian's probably the second most, as far as board member, he's the second most senior person. He was president years back. I don't know if there are any thoughts historically that you'd like to contribute.
No, it's, I'm still excited about Active Claremont. When I try to do what we can, and with John coming on board now, on the board with us, some of the ideas that he's bringing, and then we got both Robin and Alexandra back there. They really stepped up when we needed help, and I'm hoping that we get some, I'll say younger. I'm one of the old guys now, but I'm hoping that we get some young ones that can step up and be a part and start volunteering more than what they are now. And it's getting rough, only because, as I mentioned earlier with John and Marge at the funeral, I looked around and I got thinking, here's Pete and Nora back there. They were really involved, and they could hardly get around much anymore. And Peter, he was really hurting even at the funeral. And then you got Richard, or the Richardsons were both there, and I go through the roster quite frequently. I go through it at least a couple times a week, just to see and make sure that we have everything in line. But then I start looking at some of the people, and we're definitely getting really old, and we need to have guys like Joe and Jeff involved, and these two back here in the back, keep them involved, and we need to have more of that. That, if there's one issue that I would like to discuss, would be that one. That's the biggest one, is the opportunity to bring people into the group. So.
Let me just remind everybody, when Brian's talking about the age, how this group has aged. I point out to you too that this was 26 years in 2020, so next year will be 30 years of Active Claremont. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we need something.
And that's been another thing too, trying to even just keep this thing going, considering where we've been and all that we've been through. Russ, you wanted to say something?
Well, to Brian's point, this 4th of July, me and my spiffy set of wheels hobbled around the park. Is a booth out there with, recruiting?
We used to do that. We used to have a booth at every 4th of July.
And I didn't see one this year, right?
Well, we did it last year, but yeah,
Okay.
I don't think there was one this year.
Well, my question is, does that work? Does that get results? If not, then I understand why we didn't do it.
Maybe we can ask the folks that staffed it last year. I mean, in past it has sometimes, but I don't know in recent times.
List, but
We talked to a lot of people.
right, because we gave you the list, and then you were sending it out, and then. a lot of
I don't know.
people
I don't know if we got any members from that.
But some interest.
But
right?
yes, but interest, and obviously since our meetings are pretty much open to the public anyway, so like those emails that I get, or when we do have a city council forum or a school board forum, those people get lumped into the membership.
It's a chance for
emails.
them to sign up and
Right, and
be
we
informed.
exactly, and we want them to come to meetings, and we don't. Obviously from one side of the coin, I can see, oh, you want to withhold information, so you encourage people to join. But at the same time, we want to make it easy for people to come. So like when we have things like that and we get an email list of people that are interested, they get sent the information about the meetings.
Okay.
I include them in. So even though they may not become members right now, there's opportunity for them to still obtain the information and join us and hopefully become a member.
And then the other thing would be, and I don't necessarily think it's a good bang for the buck, maybe, but Village Venture.
And we did that too. We've done that in the past. Did we do that last year?
Not recent.
I don't think we did the most recent Village Venture. I believe we did the one right after COVID, I think.
Okay.
As far as I can recall, but that I don't know for
I mean,
certain.
that kind of a thing where,
Sure.
like even, Where'd they have that, a year ago, that big car show over at the Toyota place?
Oh, yeah.
That was your deal.
Yeah, we were there. That was a good one. We talked to some people there.
Just staying in front of people is really my question. Is that the plan?
We very much were doing that in the past. So that's a question for the board and the membership, because obviously the reality too is, we only have so many board members. They can't do it alone. So you have to have other members that are willing to step up and help with that. So
the new guy I hadn't heard of.
So I'm gonna be cautious to committing people to anything at this point. But this is the time that we should be considering these things and discussing. Can we bring these things back? Are they worth bringing back?
And I will say there certainly is opportunity that could be capitalized on. I mean, heck, even if you just said, every other farmer's market, we're going to have a table or a booth. And I don't even know, I think all you have to do is just like sign up. And I don't know, I've never had a booth there, but I believe if you're a non-vendor, I think it's easier or cheaper to get placement there if you're just like an informational booth, but I'm not sure. But I know that's a very ripe opportunity that could be had.
It just stays in front of people's.
Or even once a month,
or even just once a month, something, could even
find us the first week
be a possibility to encourage some dialogue and, like you said, just top of mind, just so people are aware, till they associate Active Claremont with a group of people that give information.
There's even a point
what have you done for us lately?
Yeah. You're exactly right.
There's a point to even try to tie us in with other community organizations where we actually did 2 presentations. We'd allow them like 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning of every meeting to talk about their organization, Claremont Educational Foundation, Claremont Heritage, the League of Women Voters, and then we'd have our regular program.
That's a good idea.
But that was another thing to try to bring some of them in so they would come to know what we were all about. So that's another idea. Sue?
Yeah, I think we have a dearth of leadership right now.
I'm sorry, what?
A dearth of leadership.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's what we have to, spend some time on. How do we get the leaders in the organization that could bring everyone together and start to bring new people in?
Jeff had a question.
Yeah, Jeff.
Yeah, on these booths and such, I think we need to have some sort of attraction. Like I know the balloons, and maybe on the balloons having something tied to the balloon, a quick message with the website of Active Claremont. So that way the kids come get them, and then the parents see the little message, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So they can go on the site and learn about it. Also, I know we've talked about this, Corey and I and Linda and Scott's bringing together Safe and Transparent Claremont. And it's like that group is also, it's for the community, no special interest, just for the community. It's a lot about what Active Claremont's about.
Well, and I understand that Safe and Transparent has a more active role, and and the thing is too that Active Claremont tends to be more provide information on the issue, not necessarily activists. So those things can go hand in hand. So there's a place for both of them, but it's important to try to see if we can get some of their membership to regularly attend our meetings. But in turn, if there are people here that who the message of Transparent Claremont resonates with them, they also need to go over.
Yeah,
and help them.
also at these city meetings, as we know, many times we hear, I never heard about anything, I never heard about anything. We should have a little card. With Active Claremont, should have here's a little card, learn about Active Claremont. The Safe and Transparent Claremont group, they should have a little card. Let's talk, let's get to know each other. I also wonder about the colleges. Are there any active student groups there?
Yeah.
We know Inclusive Claremont, I know through Jed and whatever, they got that whole thing going with these kids that would come to the meetings, and of course none of them are around now, and none of them are bought or rent any of the houses that they went to the meetings for. And is there, not that they have to be Republican, but I know there's all these very strong Democratic clubs at the colleges. Is there a Republican club? Is it McKenna?
Honestly, I haven't checked lately. I'm not sure. And in some cases, a lot of the colleges these days, they're under the radar. They don't want to be public about their positions because they really get hammered in those environments.
So I think having something like, why should I go to that booth? They're giving away balloons. I remember even for Andre's booth. Ed Reese had.
We had labeled balloons. Yeah, and the balloons were a hit. Huge hit.
Big, huge hit. Balloons with a little message, and there needs to be a message somehow tied to it, so it goes back to the parents. So he has to get all the different types of people out there.
At the 4th of July, a kid in a stroller was going by and had a balloon for Aaron Peterson. I asked him, "Oh, do you like Aaron?" He goes, no, I like balloons.
Yeah.
But what was going on was they were scrolling all over the site.
Yeah.
With a vote for Aaron, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well.
And that's on the balloons. And
On
then
the
there should be
balloons.
something tied to it
Well,
with the
okay.
website, a QR code. That's the thing. You have website, QR code, any and every way to get a hold of someone and to find things.
The
It's on
QR
menus,
code-
even on our real estate.
The QR code is a must.
Yes.
And
Yes.
this year, Alex put the QR code where you pop it on your phone and his Claremont Speaks interview just comes
Oh,
right up.
okay. Yeah.
Was like, good, we're listening,
Yeah.
thank you.
And even have a way when people go to the QR code, as a way to donate on there too.
Yeah, whatever.
All the different ways.
Whatever site you.
to connect and donate.
Send them to.
Yeah. just-
So does Active Claremont have a QR code that takes them to their website?
I
You're on the
can,
board.
I can generate one in about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Do you,
Yeah.
have you been updating the website? Because the last
I,
time
I don't have
wondered,
website powers. I
it
have
wasn't
Facebook
being
powers, but I
updated.
don't have website powers,
Yeah, I
unfortunately.
had a hard time finding the meetings for a
Mhm.
long time.
Who's the
So-
website person or? who's it?
Bill Wilson was, last I checked, had all the stuff for that figured out. And that could be something too. Now it's very, I don't want to say it's easy or quick because that makes it sound like I'm diluting the job of a web designer, because it's certainly not easy or quick. But websites now are a little bit more user friendly on the building side and on the maintaining side than they were 10, 15 years ago. So it could be time for a revamp to something that's a little bit more modern. And I don't know what the latest stat is, but I think like 75% of all websites are accessed via mobile device.
Absolutely.
So it's really, really, really important that whatever we have is mobile compatible, just with like anything else. And I had another thought and it just slipped my mind, but I'm sure I'll think of it and I will yell it out when I do.
Let me add that the service I use for Claremont Speaks, for the Claremont Speaks website, it comes with so much pre-prepared templates and everything.
Mhm.
It's just like you say, you go, what color do you want the background? Click, what do you want here? What do you
Yeah.
want there? But just like the episodes on my podcast, you could have the videos of our meetings, blah, blah, blah.
Kind of logged there.
And
Yeah.
I swear to God, the guy it's come a long way in the last 2 years.
Mhm.
Just, you can do so much in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah,
That really comes out pretty nice.
yeah.
And and at the end, if you like, every time you put up something, it'll post it to Facebook, post it to Twitter, post it to Instagram.
That's what we need.
It doesn't, you just go click food and how
Yeah.
much easier did you want?
Yeah, I remember my other thought too was, I know that we at some point Active Claremont had a hard copy newsletter that was mailed out, and I think at last count, Bill Wilson also was sort of heading that. And I think last time I talked to him, he said I sent it to 8 people, which is, I don't think that juice is worth the squeeze. And we have a list of 200 emails or so. And I'm a fan of MailChimp. I use it for my business. I know a lot of other businesses use it. It's very easy. It's very clean. That's another thing that I've been thinking about trying to integrate into the club, is utilizing MailChimp so that we can semi-automate monthly newsletters. And then those newsletters will be very clean. And again, MailChimp is optimized for mobile or tablet or PC or whatever device you have, iPhone, Android, whatever, does it all. So that's another thing. And kind of to piggyback off your point, Russ, of just staying in front of people, I think having a crisper, more modern website plus, and couple that with just a once a month newsletter. I mean, even if it's just a recap of the membership meeting and the board meeting, just that alone, and then obviously we can link to the videos straight through that. I think those two things alone are going to elevate the presence quite a bit. And if it's done correctly, it should be relatively low maintenance. I did a MailChimp email today that went to 142 people. It took me about 10 minutes, and that's because I had to add properties and photos for each thing. And I just click send and off it goes. And then I get a report tomorrow when I wake up. I can see who clicked on what, how many times they looked at it, where they went in the letter. I mean, it's really great to help understand your audience. So those are just two things that I think are kind of linked together. They could create a better Active Claremont ecosystem so that we have a better effect on the community.
At the high point of our newsletter, I mean, we used to have like a member highlight. They used to do a little write-up on one of our members. I remember one time, one of the ones that was more interesting was Lola Worley. She was our 100-year-old member, so they did a write-up on her. We even had, at one point in time, we were doing watchers, kind of like the league. We did our own version of that. We had certain people that were assigned to go to different meetings for government, and they do write-ups on what they witnessed at the meetings. So there's a lot of possibilities with that, depending upon, again, it's about time and it's about finding people to manage. So I guess the action items that come from this, we can get way down in the weeds, and I think the bottom line is, obviously there's some importance to a newsletter, what technology's out there. We need to come up to technology. The traditional mailing out is not the way of doing things anymore. And then, using QR codes, to Jeff's point, and and then finding people to manage these things. People that have an interest in that would be willing to volunteer their time to manage the MailChimp or the whatever technology we have.
I'll go back to what I said. Do we have the people on the board or that can spend everybody's busy. They can spend the time to revitalize Active Claremont. Are there the people? Are there the people in our membership? We got, I call 7 people, I guess, and 7 people.
Sue, I'll throw in my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, that's the elephant in the room.
Active Claremont, in my personal opinion, not the board, my personal opinion, Active Claremont went downhill when COVID broke out. There's no question about that. It hurt everybody.
All organizations forget.
We had a double-edged sword. COVID broke out. We were hurting for executive members for the board. COVID continued for another 1.5 years. We were still hurting, and it was very progressive, and it really hasn't stopped. Where we're at right now, though, with the board, to answer your question, are we there? Yes. I think the board, that I know I have a lot more time now, and I want to be a part of that, and I want to make things happen, and that's one of the reasons that I was excited about having this issues meeting. I want to hear from you guys that have been here for a while, but I also want to hear from this lady back here on what does she want. Not what does she want. What issues are important to her?
So to Brian's point, let's hear from people.
It goes the same with both Robin and Alexandria. They had issues. They brought them to us, and we worked at the advantage we had, and we just come up out of that hole. Joe came on board, very aggressive. He came on board and he did things that I was excited about. Along with that, we had those 2 that really stepped up to the plate and carried us through the last half of the virus. And we're sitting, we went this way, and then the virus came, we dropped, we came up a little bit, leveled out, we came up a little bit more, we're back down right now, because I want to see more people get involved. I know Bill, and it just so happens right now, both Bill and John, God love them, they both took a vacation at the same time. One's in Canada, one's in Ohio, and that's fine. But when they get back, be very honest with you, I'm going to be one of them that are going to be sitting at the table saying, let's get something done. We need to move on. We need to get the issues out there that people want to hear about. It's not just the things that are exciting here in Claremont that we want to talk about, and it's not all about homeless, and it's not all about, there's other issues out there that are a little closer to home, and so because of that, that's what I want to talk about. That's what I want to see as far as issues. And I've asked these guys back here, both Alexandria right now, she's going to be taking some notes, and I know John's got a tablet back there. I want to walk out of here tonight with some issues that could be taken back to the board and say, okay, here we are, these are the issues, these are what people that came to the meeting are interested in, and we need to move on from that. Right now, we're sitting like a duck out of water. We're just not there.
All right, so let's move this along, and why don't we do this? Why don't we go around, particularly to people that have not said anything yet, and let's encourage you to throw out some ideas. What for you would give more value to this organization to make you want to come here? What kinds of programming, if you have ideas, and and just say what's on your mind. There are no bad ideas. Just throw them out there. We need to. Our scribe will make notes of all these things, and then if you as soon as you run out, we'll move to the next person. And if you come up with something, we can come back to you. But let's start. So let's start over here with Linda. Put Linda on the spot.
Yeah. Well, I've been trying to think of something as you're talking about what inspires people. People have to feel that there's something they're going to get out of it. There's going to be a benefit from it, and it's not just busy work. So the only thing I can think of is some of the issues that have been crossing my mind and a lot of people's mind is issues of safety. And I think everyone's affected by that, more or less. But I know there's, and you don't want to talk about homeless all the time, but that's been one of the...
Don't get me wrong, I do.
That's been one of the issues that has been a problem for the village. It's been a problem for our parks. It's been a problem for our soccer and baseball, that they can't use the restrooms. And I think that affects all of us if we feel like we can walk to the store or walk our dog at night or even during the day. Are we safe out there on the streets? And I think, to me, that's one of the key issues, because one of the reasons I love Claremont is because it's always been a safe place. And I think a lot of people come here because it's a safe place, and they work harder to be here because of that. And so we have to maintain that to make Claremont continue to be what it has been. And so I thought it would be important maybe I wanted to have time to go visit the people in the village, the shop owners, and see if they had ideas on how is this affecting them and what do they see could be done to protect the community or to protect their spaces. I've gone to talk to Adam, I get the mix of Aaron Fate of the Chief of Police, and just to see what can we do. And it's always been, so.
What I'm envisioning from what you're saying is a comprehensive program on homelessness. A representative from Tri-Cities, a representative from law enforcement, may not be from Claremont, but somebody that is very, very active in handling homelessness.
Yeah, and it's not just homelessness either. I mean, that's a big aspect of it because you can see it, but it's people that are it's mostly the homeless that we see because they hang out and a lot of them are mentally unstable. And you can't, you're afraid to walk by them. Some training on how to deal with that. How do you approach someone? How do you assess those things? I think people would be interested in that, and they would maybe get more involved.
So there, I think you've got one programming idea, and we can, offline we can talk about people. And even if you could find somebody who's maybe come out of home, and there are people out there. They have their story. So if you can identify somebody, that would be an interesting panel. That might, that potentially bring a few people out. Yeah. So thank you for that.
That's good.
Any other ideas at this point, or?
Not that I can think of, but
well,
I'll keep
thinking. Alex, did you want to?
I'm gonna have to think about it and get back to you guys later. Circle back to me.
Joking with that, circle back to this. Well, that Susan Manasso, she did organize the meetings where it was very specific to District 4, which is really good, where she had a police officer come out and talk about the organized crime that comes and targets northern Claremont, as well as, throughout the city.
That was really a really good meeting. It was a neighborhood watch.
Right. So something like that.
That was excellent.
Yeah, that was really good, because there was, and just also address some of the things that have been going on in the city, like what happened at some Crust Bakery. But that applies to the homeless situation. And up at the Wolves parking lot up there, I'm sure you read about that woman who was scammed
I didn't hear about that.
We'll serve Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
Whole Foods.
sorry,
Yeah, last
I
weekend.
misspoke, it's Whole Foods, yeah.
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 maybe-
And Rebecca Franco.
Maybe something like that would be
Yeah.
an event where, I mean, it's not very pleasant, but, you know, maybe we go clean the community bathrooms.
Yeah, that's
Well,
another
that was
thing,
good.
you know.
That's it. You know, we
kinda
even
neat.
even at a program to that point, like assisting senior members that had problems with fix up at houses. We had some of those
Yeah.
types of programs. So that's actually that's a good idea. Something along those lines.
It's not just cleaning the restrooms, I think it's upgrading them too. I think that they just haven't had a facelift in the public restrooms, the one next to City Hall, the one at Larkin Place is probably the worst.
Yeah, we were just there
And the
yesterday.
rest of them kind of go up and down. And, you know, I mean,
Splash
this is, you know, I used to take care of infrastructure, so I looked at that. I was very project oriented throughout the last 20 years
What's that expression?
of my career. So I helped to sequence capital improvement projects, and we would do upgrades of playgrounds, of streets, of green spaces, of bathrooms, restrooms, community services buildings, new projects. So, you know, I'm able to kind of help mold sequencing to that effect. And I would be willing to just get rough outlines and just talk about what can we do that's not, that wouldn't require a tremendous amount of funds. Or what could we do to maybe work with the city and with staff to say, hey, look, here's some ideas, and can we promote some ideas to staff to do the funding to see if they can.
You could have signs that said, "This clean bathroom brought to you by Active Claremont."
And then have the QR code.
Hey, we did with the baseline. That's how the DOT program started. I encouraged them that we should have some programs like that, and this could certainly fold in under that because it's not specific to anything.
No.
It was basically if some organization is willing to volunteer to do something like that, you know, they have to commit for a certain period, and then once they do, they get recognized at council and they get a sign. And one of the projects separate from baseline was the Young Engineers Society from Technip adopted the 5 Mile Loop, and they'd have their folks go out, you know, monthly at least and pick up the trash on the loop. So certainly we can, you know, there's flexibility in crafting.
We used to focus on entry
programs.
points into the city, whether it was signage. So when you came into the city, you knew what organizations were there. You knew that it was a Tree City USA or a Play City USA. This is Claremont. You know, in your signs when you come in, maybe they're adorned with a little bit of color or greenery or like a low drought tolerant, easy to maintain landscape. But you know when you're coming into the city. And people have told me too, it's like, we used to know when you were coming into the city from Indian Hill out of Pomona, oh, I'm in Claremont now. You can't even tell when you're, you know, they're just
Thank
pretty
you.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you go down there, it's an entry point into the city. Coming off the freeways, we worked with Caltrans to upgrade the off-ramps. And we worked collaboratively together, and there was quite a few of them, and it got noticed by other cities and by the other people in the valley.
Yeah, and I think there's a multiple prong effect there. Number one, obviously you're volunteering and helping your city. Number two, you're promoting the organization if you do get one of these signs or plaques, something like that. And number three, it lends credibility to the organization, right? Because then it's not just an organization of people that just go to meetings to complain about things or go to meetings to give input about things. We're an organization that does these things, and you can see it right here for yourself. And so when we do speak up or when we do say things, we are connected to the community. We are the community, and what we say has weight. Yeah, that as well. So I think that's a very good point and a good idea in terms of projects like that, especially something like, you know, just helping clean up the public restrooms. You know, that's
or maybe refurbishing.
Yeah.
You know, you could do a fundraiser to refurbish a bathroom at a time.
Yeah.
Is there like Rotary clubs and, you know, Kiwanis, at least when I go to Monterey Park, they always seem to kind of do some modification, like in the parks.
They have projects. As a matter of fact, one of the members of Kiwanis came to me lately because there's that portion of Mountain Avenue that's not landscaped just below Clairvoy there, and somebody even hit the utility box there, and it had been damaged for months now. I finally got a hold of our rep from Frontier, and they've taken ownership of it. They're supposed to be cleaning that up, but she offered she said, Kiwanis might be able to do a landscaping project. So they do those sorts of things. Sue can actually, what am I saying? We have a member of Kiwanis here. She can speak better than I can. But I mean, they sell the food at a lot of our events, and they help pay for things, be it concerts in the park.
But we have a one day. It's called Kiwanis One Day, and that is a day all over the world. Kiwanians are, I don't know if it's always the same day, but Kiwanians are doing some sort of project in the community. And other than pancake breakfast, seeds candy, scholarships, grants, I can go through the whole litany. We're very busy. The club is incredibly busy, and now it's concerts in the park. But on that Kiwanis One Day, who came to you? Who
Pat Henny.
Oh, Pat.
I guess she walks there on Mountain, and she noticed. She said that looks like an eyesore quarry that was hit. And
if someone wanted to propose something to Kiwanis and say, let's work together on Kiwanis One Day, and I think Jerry Feingold is in charge of. Well, he has been in the past. Jerry's worked on the Thompson Creek Trail, where Kiwanis has put up the little things about the plants on the trail and stuff like that. I don't know if you see it, but
they've been busy out there.
Yeah,
a lot of trees got planted on Thompson Creek.
And I don't know if we counted. I think we may have counted that as Kiwanis One Day, but otherwise we have, but someone could always make a request and come to the club or get a hold of Greg Chapman. Greg Chapman is the president, and next year's president is Pat Lee. And and we're to the board at a board meeting or in advance. I can help you get through the system if you want me to.
About 100 members, plus or minus.
Corey, one of the
65 or 70.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let's keep going. Helene, what are your thoughts?
I think the important thing is to get younger families and younger membership, because as you say, half of us are.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that.
And, maybe do a couple of things for families to get the families interested, and that gets the parents. I think you really have to shoot for younger membership.
One of the things that, when she spoke up earlier about the homeless and that is a big problem. The key that I clicked into though was safety. I've been looking for it for 20 minutes, and I'm a dinosaur when it comes to this dang phone, but I just put an article out there because Rodeo Jewelries, Baskin Robbins, all these places just got hit, and Claremont's no different than Laverne. So I put out an article and I know a lot of the people that put their article out there, they're up in age, they're up in my age, and the first thing that I told them was, in caps, Laverne does not live in a bubble anymore, period. If you think about it, homeless is an issue because of the mentally disturbed ones that are out there. I can think of 3 or 4 that every time they show up at Carl's Jr., and if I'm there, they know they got a hamburger, and they know they got fries, and they know they got a Coke. They don't get it for free. I make them go out and clean the parking lot on the corner of Wheeler and Foothill. Well, and they know my car, and they know if it's there, they'll buy, they'll wave, and they know. And I don't mind that part. The part that's bothering me now is you're getting people out of East LA, you're getting people out of Pasadena, you're only getting a few coming up from Pomona, but there's going to be more, especially now that they've got a new law that you don't have to pay a bail bondsman if it's a misdemeanor. If you rob a store and you don't have a gun, as long as you smash and grab, they're going to let them out the following day. And that just came out today, which irritates me. But my point being, this group could get involved in a number of things. And the one thing that I did tell them, I said, if you want to do something, go to your council and start pushing the envelope again. Bring back Neighborhood Watch. In my neighborhood alone, 4 houses have been hit in the last month. And it's because they know that they're all double, husband and wife are both working, and they know that. And I haven't been hit yet because they never know when I'm home. And that's a good thing. But neighborhood watch, another thing that I'm going to bring it up because I'm on the chamber board over in Laverne. The thing that I'm going to bring up, especially after these robberies where they just went in and smash and grab, I'm going to go to the council and get with the businesses in town that are members. We have over 700 businesses in town that belong to the chamber, and I'm going to ask them, let's think about putting in ballards in front of these stores. A 6-inch ballard full of concrete, and if a car hits it, that ballard's going to go right through the center of that car. That's fine with me. Something's got to be done with the businesses. You got to protect the businesses. I mean, that guy, the guy at Rodeo Jewelers, I'm surprised he wasn't killed. The only thing that helped him was age, and he was very accommodating. He just basically, him and the lady that worked there, they just stood back and let it happen. But we got to help the businesses in town. We got to start looking at, don't just pick on the businesses, start looking at the homes. Our police department, as well as Claremont, because I know they work together, they have rules that they have to follow. And 2 people on there were complaining that it took them more than 4.5 minutes to get to the store. Well, I'm sorry. Do we hire more cops? Do we make the center hire security? And make them do something. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm going to be taking it to the chamber and start hitting the businesses and saying, wake up. And neighborhood watch is a good thing in a residential area that we ought to bring back. I know, I'll just tell you real quickly, I know Corey get disturbed with me. I got 10 houses on my street. It's a cul-de-sac street. I go in here, and and I'm resident 1. We had the cops come in, and we set it up. Mine is resident 1. My neighbor is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. When any of them go on vacation or going to be gone more than a day, and if they're going to have somebody at the house, neighborhood 1, this is neighborhood 4. I'm going to be leaving. I'm going to Vegas for 3 days. My son will be in the driveway. Really, his car will be in the driveway. And knock on wood, we're the only street in my neighborhood that has not had a robbery in the last 2 years. So I don't know what the answer is, but as far as issues, that's an issue that maybe we ought to have the police department come in. Not have them come in and just talk about the homeless. Talk about Larkin Park, what a piece of junk it is, and that's why we're having our barbecue, our picnic.
They don't have barbecues there, and they took them out because the homeless just...
That's what I mean.
Fires.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when we had our barbecue down there, I was feeding 2 or 3 of the homeless that were there because they were there, and I felt sorry for them, and I'll feed them. But
maybe neighborhood watch is a
I'm just
program.
frustrated.
I don't know if that's a program per se, but that's a topic certainly. Jeff.
Yeah, actually, along with that, just today, because I have a business interest in a commercial village business, and I am part of the Claremont Village Marketing Group. And today they announced, I don't know if anyone here in this room got the invitation, next Thursday morning at the chamber, council chambers, they are having a meeting, and the main topic, or the main problem is homeless. So it's 9 o'clock Thursday morning. I'm not sure who can go to that. Chief Fade, I believe, will be there. Our police will be there. Quite a few merchants will be there. Owners of buildings as well as employees of the businesses. I'm not sure if you know about this or you can go.
I used to always try to get to Village Marketing Group, but it's become harder now with my full-time job.
Yeah.
Admittedly.
So that's then. Another thing, like you were saying, Brian, one thing I noticed, I was just chatting with them, and I have a family member with Claremont PD, and I have clients and former chiefs are clients of mine too. And I asked, why is it we actually see videos and we see pictures of people once they're in a store smashing and grabbing, taking wallets out of ladies' purses or clobbering them in the parking lot. We see it in Laverne, we see it in San Dimas, Upland, Azusa, Glendora, even Susan Bernazzo. she doesn't have enough content in Claremont because for whatever reason it's not posted, or they're told not to post it. So she's posting things in Laverne and Claremont. Like what happened over at Rodeo Jewelers, I saw it from 5 different angles. I saw it from Laverne Police Department, I saw it from Laverne Group, I saw it through our own Claremont Connects, I think, maybe through Susan Bernasso, and they actually showed the video of these people in the store, and they showed the white car, which was just a few days after it happened at the Diamond Center. My understanding is there are multiple videos of the guys that were at the Diamond Center, multiple videos within the shop, outside the shop. There's pictures of the white car that was there, but that wasn't posted anywhere. Then I asked police officers and sometimes the chief and others, why aren't these things being posted here? Don't we want to catch these people? Well, the city doesn't let us. Who is, and I keep wondering, who is the city? Who is the city? Well, the city manager's office. I go, that narrows it down to a little bit more. Why don't we want to post this? And then I heard the other day, well, these people had masks on and they had hoodies on. You wouldn't know what they looked like anyway. Like, yeah, but maybe earlier in the day they didn't have their masks on. Maybe they had their hoodies on, but they were down. Maybe they were at Starbucks planning on what they're going to do. Maybe they were pizza and such without the masks. And then someone from that video could see what these people look like without the masks. Then I hear, yes, so actually a client of mine was Rebecca Franco. She put her own post on Claremont Connect, so it's out there, it's public. She was at Whole Foods last weekend, middle of the day. Someone was tapping on her window, a couple, they looked fine. They tapped on her window and they were trying to talk to her, and she at first was hesitant to even connect with him, and then she did finally come out, and then she did see someone splashed a bunch of something on the back of her car, and then she got out, and then all of a sudden, I guess she had her passenger window down, and the lady of the couple took her wallet, and before you knew it, they were already out spending money at Best Buy, and I would bet Whole Foods, it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation, they gotta have video in that parking lot. They gotta have video, and then when this couple was at Best Buy just hours later, they gotta have video. So, okay, I would think if I'm Claremont PD, if I'm Whole Foods, I would like, let's get the video of these people because someone's gotta see the video of these people because they're gonna be at it again. And you know, so they might have an altercation with someone and then someone could get hurt. Let's see these videos. Why don't we see these videos? If it's in Upland, Laverne, Claremont, Azusa, Glendora, we see the videos. But for whatever reason, Claremont keeks it quiet.
Could I kind of
Well, I will take it back. One thing I will just share with you, I'm understanding technology is coming along, and I had dinner with the mayor of Covina, Walt Allen, who's law enforcement, and he told me that Beverly Hills now, and I think even Chino has like drone technology they're using, and apparently it's helping to solve a lot of cases to the point that now the problem is they don't have enough personnel to process all of the information that they have. So, I mean, I think technology is resolving that, but I will ask some pointed questions about this when I meet with the city manager next time, because I'm not aware, I've never been told we have a policy that says we can't post pictures of criminals, unless there's some liability reason, but then don't say it's the city, say that legal counsel is suggesting
well, the way the
there's liability issues.
In LA and San Bernardino, they're posting these videos. And, like Corey and I talked about the City Hall bathroom. Maybe if Active Claremont starts with one bathroom, let's start with the one by City Hall. I've noticed how bad it is, and I've noticed there's a food tray covering the camera for weeks. And I just called Claremont PD one day. They said, oh, yeah, we'll have someone out over the weekend. Nothing changed. And I told Ed Reese, and he said he would talk to someone. Then I actually went to City Hall, and I said, maybe someone could do something. And then I share with you, Corey, it's interesting, like within a day or two later, that guy with the food tray covering the camera. And then I asked someone at the police station, who's actually watching these cameras? Oh, they haven't worked for months. I'm like, shouldn't the public know this? Or maybe you should remove the camera, because some people might depend on that camera. And then we go to the city meetings and we see the criminals out there. They're smoking crack. You can smell it. You can smell it. They're doing their thing. And then the business ownership across the street, they say, oh yeah, they all meet there, and then they go different directions with their little backpacks. And some of these people, they pretend they're...
That's a whole separate issue. I get upset with this whole thing, no smoking, but it's okay if you're smoking drugs, just you can't smoke though.
Yeah, so anyway,
I grimace though to the point of the restrooms, and then I would just point out though, we're trying to solve problems for the city. We need to identify issues for Active Claremont. But I will just make this last point. You brought up the restrooms. The reason I kind of grimaced is the restrooms by City Hall, it's all how you define they've been renovated, because we've actually changed out the sinks and the toilets in there probably 4 or 5 times already, because people have literally gone in there and smashed them. And I even suggested to the city manager this last time not to do porcelain. I think we switched to stainless steel, because I said, I said, see if there's less of a desire to do it because you can't exactly smash a stainless steel. So I haven't actually asked him if that's stopped the vandalism, but it's a problem because even if you fix them up, these people are loitering there and they continue to damage it. So anyway.
Yeah, so public safety, that's
as a
also
topic.
the vacant homes that we have for
Not
sale.
just safety, public safety and health.
Correct.
Right.
He's been trying to.
Okay.
Yeah.
John, sorry.
Well, no, I just, to summarize, you support them reaching out to businesses in the village, because I've tried to just like summarize everybody's comments here. As I think it was previously suggested. So what exactly can Active Claremont do? What can this group do?
Well, actually, to that point,
I
I think maybe you create a program with them. Because to your point, it's 9 a.m. A lot of folks can attend that. Offer them the opportunity to have a forum here at Active Claremont in the evening, and do a joint program with Village Marketing and Active Claremont to have a discussion on the unhoused situation and safety. I think those were so that would be one, and then you'd actually have an audience.
That would be one really good meeting, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Some of them from the.
And so you're all kind of getting on the right track. This is the kind of thing you need to brainstorm for programs for interests that people have and try to bring them in here to get them in the door to create a program around it. Russ.
And your comment about having it at 9 a.m. is my biggest complaint with a lot of the presentations, not only from the city, but the Chamber of Commerce. It's like, you guys have this stuff when everybody has to go to work. And then you bitch because there's no attendees. And it's like, well, we have to go to work. And even this morning, they have a Zoom meeting on cannabis at 8 in the morning. And it's like, if you're on cannabis, 8 in the morning is like, is unheard of.
They did a 6 a.m. I think they're just trying to cover all.
Yeah, 6 a.m. Nobody's getting up at 6 to watch this. How about when you can actually, attend?
6 p.m. They have one at 6 p.m.
Oh,
it was in person here at the Hughes Center. This is number 2 of 3. So there's one at night, one in the morning. I think they're trying to just cover all the
because they're trying to
bases.
cover all bases. But I asked the guy at the end of the meeting this morning, like, because he goes, okay, I don't see any hands up. Like, okay, it's 8:15, why? But I asked him at the end, he says there was maybe between 25 and 35 people clicked in during the course of the Zoom meeting. And I don't know if that's his attendance target or what. Cousins, right, is who the...
Alex Cousins.
Yeah, the presenter. But having it then and having a separate one where it's at a time like this when, people can finish dinner, put the kids to bed and go do something like this, even if it's just for the chamber or whatever it is, I think is a great idea. Have it when people can actually go there. It's like the banks. You're not open on the weekend, that's when people can go there. It kind of cuts down the traffic if you're only open when people can't go there.
In all fairness to the Village Marketing Group, I'd only point out to you in the chamber, those are business people and those are their hours. They're doing them during their hours. So admittedly, they're not thinking about it from the standpoint if we want the general public to come, this isn't a good time. But they're doing it when they're active in the community.
But don't those people have businesses to run during those hours?
Right, but they're here in Claremont because keep in mind not all of them live here. So they do it when they're in town here doing their business.
And they do the same thing.
The argument needs to be made to them that, if you want to get more people out and you want to expand it beyond business people to bring more awareness to the community, we're here, we're a group, we can
Provide
have
the
it
venue.
here, and we can create a program. It does have to be balanced, we have to have all sides there, but it creates a more interesting program at a better time, I think, when people are available.
Well, accessibility, and I'll just leave it at that. Sure. Because otherwise it kind of rings like the Bob Newhart bit from Catch-22, where he says, when I'm not here, let anybody in to see me. When I'm here, I'm not here. Like,
He's Jim, we haven't heard from Jim yet, Jim Keith.
Well, I've heard a couple real good ideas. I think the idea of using MailChimp is really smart because you get to know who opened it, who ran it, who's really following what's going on.
That's right.
And so that's a real high payback thing. As I've been following my particular, passions, there are people who will not come to a meeting, but they're totally fine with a phone call, follow-up. We know you're interested in this, let's talk about it. And so you can still engage people even though they don't come to your meeting. So therefore, it's really important to take that list of members you have and say, how many are really engaging? What are they interested in? And trying to keep track of that. Because people are really busy and they tend to say, I'll be there when I have to. You know, if it's really important that I'm there and there's a decision to be made and I need to speak up, I mean, they will turn out. But sometimes you have to call them and say, this is it, you know. Anyway, the other thing, I wanted to mention the cannabis meeting this morning. I mean, the city's going to say we've had 2 out of 3 of our outreach meetings, and I saw a picture of the first meeting, and it looked like there were maybe 8 people in the first meeting.
Right.
I don't know where it was or when, but I think it's going right over the top of everybody. They have no clue what's going on, whether it's going to impact them or not.
Especially now, this time of year.
Right, so that...
People are on vacation. If they're not gone,
point,
they're in
why,
their head, they're gone.
And that's why I asked them how many really were there. Because the single most irritating comment from the housing element, public comment to me, was the lady who stepped up and said, when was all this? This is brand new. I've never heard about any of this before tonight. It's like, what are you, a hermit? You know, come on, really?
Well,
baloney, this has been going on for years. Open your windows, wash your windshield. What is your problem? You know, and so the same thing.
Let me continue on. I remember when someone was gonna put a 7-Eleven up there on Foothill near Mills, the whole neighborhood turned out. They couldn't believe there would actually be a 7-Eleven near them. So I can tell you, when somebody wants to put a cannabis sales somewhere,
that's when like
you're going to suddenly see a whole bunch of interest. And so,
but it's going to be the day before they do it. Right.
Yeah, they're going to say, hey, we've been, anyway. But the point is, it's a real function for active Claremont to get the word out and say, hey, this is really happening.
That's right.
And the idea that you record a presentation and you actually have it online, that's a huge value. The other comment, there are people really passionate about things in Claremont, like Wendy Romalo made a presentation at Kiwanis the other day. People aren't going to see that.
About guns.
Pardon?
About guns.
Yeah, it's about guns. But a person who's ready to talk and they're passionate about something, they could be invited to do a presentation, right? And then you can tell your audience, okay, we're going to have this presentation. We're actually going to record it so you can actually see it. So that is where you find passionate people who really want it, who've really researched something. They're ready to talk about it. They're ready to answer questions. And so it's really valuable to get those people in front of residents, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Often I hear only a one-sided
I think
story.
that's a great topic to consider, as the cannabis issue and the pros and cons, and having people from both sides, that, you know, the pro side and the con side, sharing their reasons.
And that's a current issues. That's another. So that's enough. Thank you. Linda's really honing in on the good topics. So we got working with the right there. We got 2 programs for this year. Working with the Village Marketing Group on a presentation on security and unhoused, and a presentation on both sides on cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then don't forget, we talked about the mental health. What can we do approaching homeless or assessing?
That's kind of tight in it, but it may be too big for maybe what it might be a 2-part program.
Well, I'm thinking maybe someone from Tri-City or something like that could come and.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, this, just a minute.
And the divorce
So-
will be
You can see what it's like.
If there's a really good meeting at Chamber of Commerce about safety of our businesses, then it would be perfect to invite Chief Fate. Come tell us about it. I mean, we can't walk in on the Chamber of Commerce meeting, you know, but he could probably come and say, well, here's what we covered, and this is what we discussed, and here's some facts on it. He had to put it together for the chamber, etc. And I'll bet you a whole bunch of people tune in for that. The only other cautionary thing, I wanted to talk about the bathroom situation, and I'll just give you a little background. So this employee of the city came to take a look at dying trees nearby, and he had been cleaning up bathrooms. And evidently, every morning they have to clean up, this was back a ways, but they had to clean up the bathrooms in the parks. And he said it's just awful. Yeah. So we are paying people to clean up these bathrooms in the parks. So the surprise is the condition of these bathrooms. People do not know it. And so if you wanted to do some volunteer activity, just go take some pictures. You know, what does it look like before the city crew comes through at whatever, 4:30 in the morning, whatever time it takes, and here's just a series of pictures, right? And so, yes, you would show the tray, whether it's over the tray over the camera for 2 weeks straight. I tell you, a picture is worth a million years. When you get in front of somebody and you put it into a PowerPoint,
yeah,
you know, it really gets the point of, and you can actually have a presentation on it. And then you can ask people to comment on how many hours are being spent cleaning up. I don't know what it is now, but anyway, this guy was saying, you have no idea what my every day starts with.
Well, and sometimes the cleaning people fudge if nobody's keeping an eye on them. I can tell you when Apani was on council, he used to frequent Higginbotham Park regularly, and he started to notice regularly when the restroom was a mess. So he kept coming back and harping on the city manager about the fact that the restroom, and they started auditing the cleaning crew, and they just weren't very thorough. And once they started on them, it started to get, Apani said there was a difference. It started to get cleaned up. So unfortunately, sometimes you need auditors, so maybe that's a volunteer element, auditors that are checking these things and making sure we're getting our money's worth in town for what we're paying.
Well, or the fact is, why are we allowing people to do this to our public facilities? That is a crime, and that person needs to be removed from the streets. They got burnt. They were burned up 2 or 3 times, right? So if we have cameras that function, and I agree that's a key thing, that you're tolerating that cameras are not maintained.
That's not the only one.
So we should be able to tell who did that, right? That should be an investigation, who did that, and that person has to be off the streets. So, so if we're really concerned about something, just documenting what's going on, particularly with pictures, is huge. And at a certain point, you can put together a presentation.
I'm on it.
So, yeah, it's highly embarrassing. I mean, the truth comes out.
And it is a health issue too. I've researched already all the different diseases that you can get from these restrooms that are in the condition they are in right now. They're there. And then it's gross. I wouldn't use them.
Correct, may I ask on this topic, if there's a known person that's doing this constantly, is there a way the city can get a restraining order that this person is not allowed to?
It's a long process because we went through that, if you all remember Brett.
Yeah.
And it was years of keeping records. And then of course they got him committed for about a year. And then they released him, and in a few months he went back to his old ways, and within a few months he passed away. So there you go.
They do have the care court now. It's supposed to be able to physically restrain people now. You can get in front of a judge. So it's going to have to change, and that's part of our message. This has to change. This cannot continue to be standard practice here. And even at the police commission, even Becky Margiotta was saying, those of you working with the homeless, first of all, we have Tri-City homeless working for the Human Services that interfaces the Homeless Navigator, right? Then we have the PACT person also coming from Tri-City who interfaces with homeless at times. And to my understanding, they're not yet meeting. They need to meet together and And Becky's point was, if person A has dealt with this person 13 times and person B 10 times in a month, okay, we got a problem with person A. We got to start naming names here and make a plan for person A, right? Because it's not, sometimes we say the homeless is not a uniform thing. There are certain people that have to be dealt with.
Correct.
And the people like Chief Vanderveen, I remember she said she personally had to assemble the 275 times they arrested Brett, you know, in order to get somebody to do something. We as a public need to provide an atmosphere that says, well, let's do it, you know, and it shouldn't have to be a volunteer
Well,
project.
and this isn't relative to this discussion, but that atmosphere needs to be at City Council, I will just say. Because that is a problem, because I will tell you, you know, when we were going through that George Floyd thing, those folks were out there constantly, compassion, and that's what they were hammering the police. The police were afraid to touch these things because it was like, you know, then we're gonna be, you know, branded as you know, racist and all this sort of thing. You know, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. A group like this brings people in to inform what the problems. Then those people need to get engaged and get out to council meetings on their own and start speaking out on these things and be relentless like the other side. I mean, we have this group out there that's all about bicycle lanes. I mean, they finally let up for the last couple of meetings. I was actually surprised, but they came about 3 or 4 meetings in a row and they wouldn't stop. Bicycle lanes, bicycle lanes, bicycle lanes, bicycle lanes, bicycle lanes, bicycle safety, bicycle, you know, it just, you know, these people won't give up. And so the other side needs to start, you know, taking a lesson from that, and they need to be out there too. Push, you know, the one day when we had a group of folks out there, you know, from the sports groups, and that was, you know, that was good. I mean, you could feel it. It you know, it really put pressure on all of us. But it was one time. You know, and it's like they needed to come back, and they should have united with other folks. Some of you are here that had the same thing. You should all be coming together and saying, hey, you know, not just the sports groups, but yeah, this is happening over here. This is a concern, and you don't stop. You know, even if you miss one meeting, at least every other meeting, people need to be there, still not letting up on their issue.
Okay, I'm going to bowl through here. One last comment. You know, the police are not doing certain things, and my granddaughter says the police aren't doing the right things. Well, why not?
Up in San Francisco.
Up in San Francisco.
Which is falling apart now.
But the point is, the police work for us. So then they get the information from the city manager and council and police commission is what the community wants. They can't just say, well, we won't tolerate that, we're gonna do something different. They need us, the public, to say, just driving by those trafficked women is not gonna, we're not gonna put up with it, right? And so that was where I say that's our role. We have to do that because the police do not have the power independently to do what they think is right. You know, they think they have to obey instructions from the city manager, actually. So anyway, we can get those issues in front of people, and if people want to get together and take pictures and say, hey, yeah, I care enough about bathrooms, I'm going to take pictures, and there won't be one person, it'll be, you know, a number of us that will do that, we'll put them together. Then I think we're really doing a great asset for the city.
Thank you, Jim. Sue.
Okay, the League of Voters has observers. Why couldn't we have not observers? Because observers aren't supposed to do anything. But liaison to the city council meetings, send people to a person that will, you know, go to every city council meeting, or maybe 2 people who will go to every city council meeting and report back to us. And how many members do we have, Brian?
Almost 50, if you count the ones we have complimentary, like the Courier. But if you count everybody, it's about 50, 51, which isn't too bad. Paying members, we're at about 30.
Okay, whatever the theme is whether it's homeless, whether it's, you know, let's just get back to normal again, you know, then we could, if we wanted to send out an email to everyone saying, you know, alerts kind of going, so that our membership knows what's happening. And Bob Garrick does it. You know, I mean, we can even get Bob's alerts. You know, he sends those out. So all of our members, I mean, I don't know, our members are all on. In other words, keep in touch with our members and see what, you know, if it's a newsletter or whatever it is, keep in touch with our members. I want to say something else. I like what Karen said too. She talked about young families and what is concerning them. And we know the baseball people were very concerned about the fact that they couldn't even, their kids had to go into a restroom and could see somebody shooting up a drug. You know, so what are the major concerns? Is it mental health issues that kids are having because of the pandemic? Is it drug? Is it fentanyl? If I were a parent right now, I'd be scared to death about fentanyl. You know, so I'm wondering if, do you think, I'm wondering if we should find out, you know, if there was a way to find out by talking to, I mean, I could talk to my neighbor, you know, by talking to parents. We could even have a panel of 4 parents or 3 parents. And what is it? What are the things that you, as a parent, are concerned about now? I bet you guns are concerning to them. You know, or public safety in their schools. You know, maybe the panel would be the thing to have, and get together 3 moms and a mom and 2 dads. Ask whoever gets elected in this election if they would help us do that. You know, because they've been out and about. Aaron Peterson's been out and about, and Alex McDonald has been out and about. What have you been hearing? Can you get together 4 parents, say, and let's have a panel on what parents are interested in. What is concerning them about their children?
So honestly, I think right there, we have 3 meetings left for this year: September, October, November. And I'm not. Maybe you've already committed 1 or more of those. I don't know. But if not,
you've got about 2 minutes.
I think you've got possibly 3 programs. You know, for the remainder of the year. Yeah. No, that's why it's time to wrap up. I appreciate everybody being here. You know, at this point, you know, this is kind of for the benefit of the board members who are here. You've kind of heard now some of the things. I offered to facilitate this in part because I, was here at the beginning to kind of offer some history and context to all of this. But, hopefully you can pull some of these ideas for programs. Let's just, I can also mention, obviously when you bring out somebody like the supervisor, that had good attendance. Another thing I can work on that might be of interest too, along this, along the same lines here, we've had panels of council people from other cities that have kind of talked about what issues they're facing, so we can hear what other cities are dealing with. A lot of times there's commonality, and you get some really good ideas and discussions out of that. So that's another thing I can offer to you all.
Just
Linda.
Really quickly to bounce off what Sue has said is that we want to bring in young families. Well, we have a connection to young families through the issue of the bathrooms at the sports parks. So if we can connect with them and they can see us as an avenue towards solutions, that might bring the families
That's
involved.
a good idea.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Well, if the board knows, Sue offered her neighbor, but if you know any folks that you could engage.
I just think Aaron Peterson and Alex McDonald both they've been out and about. I know when I ran, in the school, at the school board, I got to know a lot of people, a lot of parents, and they should be able to come up with, without us having to go out and 4 or 5 parents that might be willing to come and talk to us about what's concerning them.
You're all going to be in District 4.
4, yeah. 4
Yeah, I'm just saying that.
Corey, we need to cut it off
That's fine.
pretty quick.
He's going around.
Or we're going to be.
Well, we don't have anything. We don't have anything to take. We don't have anything to take down. We're good. Brian's concerned we don't want to go over, but I guess the last point I would just make, again, even in terms of we all know friends, we all know people, and to the point of the positions we need filled here, we need to recruit people. Frankly, I alluded to it. I recruited Russ, and I tried to work on Andre. I don't think Andre's quite there yet because he's got a lot of things going, but I'm hoping I can get Andre in here. I told him coming off his campaign, he had made a lot of connections, talking to people. That's helpful. People that have connections, they know who the political people are that are concerned about issues. We need to get those people in here. Sam Pedrosa, I want to get him more involved, but I know he's busy with his job in City of Industry, but he'd have value on this board. So again, we all know people. That's another thing we all need to work on is think of those folks and try to get them in here, and in part do that through these programs. come up with programs that have that cross over different parts of the community and have and bring people in the room and generate interest.
Yeah.
So hopefully this was of value to everybody.
Yeah. We're also going to encourage you at the picnic to bring family and friends, definitely, because that, as you said, that's what we can feed off of. That and the sports groups, anybody that you feel that you'd like to bring. And I hate to be the treasurer of this group, but if we don't get out of here in about 2 minutes, it's going to cost me another $20.
Thank you all. I hope there's value to this for everybody. Thank you.
When is the picnic again?
Thank you, Corey.
19th?
I can tell you momentarily.